What is good? We're back. We got news and notes for your pleasure. Chev, how we doing?
You know me, brother. Any day on the side of dirt's a good one.
That's right, man. And we're in we're in a little bit of a slow period of the off season. Some camps just closed up. Now we got to wait until training camp starts. We're waiting until basically July at this point. So not sure if we'll do news and notes next week, but when there is news and notes, it'll be a weekly show. But we got some fun topics to talk about. I think we could start with, one of your favorites from this offseason from, the rookie drafts was Jaden Higgins getting a little bit of love. Coach is saying he's growing, getting better every day out there making plays. How you feeling about Jaden Higgins right now?
I mean, so this is one of the ones where I feel super vindicated, and it just so happens to be with the guy that I was initially vindicated with in Nico Collins. Like, I was screaming way before it was cool to, like, all my buddies that I play. I was like, hey, this dude from Texas is really good. Like, yeah, whatever. And then 2023 happened, and they're like, man, Nico Collins is really good. I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. So with Jaden Higgins, I'm really excited to see him continuing to grow. I know a lot of people kind of got lower on him because of the reception perception that came out, and it wasn't very good. And I respect Matthew Harmon and his work, but I watched Jaden Higgins play football. I watched him just have a knack for being able to position his body to draw pass interferences. And I saw him be big and physical after the catch. Mm-hmm. So he gets to play alongside a guy who basically Daniel Jeremiah comped him to 1-to-1. And I think that's going to benefit him a ton. And I think giving CJ Stroud this weapon, all of this just is great news for Jaden Higgins. Giving him a weapon like this, like, oh, you're going to double Nico? Cool. Jaden Higgins is open. So I think it's going to be really good. And I think that us continuing to see that he's good at football is just going to lead to him being very good given the opportunity with those 130 targets that have opened up.
Right. Yeah, there's certainly some opportunity here, right? There's a little bit of a log jam, sort of, right, as far as
absolutely
the players that they have, but it does seem like Higgins is going to get mostly be on the outside along Nico, and then right now you have Christian Kirk probably slotting into the slot. That's kind of the report from camp. They've kind of, the DBs have doned Christian Kirk as a slot demon. So
I mean, he's good. He's a good football player, man.
Yeah. We'll come back to Kirk in a second. I always kind of liked Higgins as the big slot kind of player. So I'll be interested to see like how they utilize him, where they line him up. I'm interested to see this Texans offense. I'm interested to see the protection that kind of comes out here. All these things all kind of go hand in hand. But it is nice to see what you liked out of the big man. What I thought was like fluidity and pretty good, vertical speed. And that's why I kind of liked him in that big slot. It's just that he could get in and out and up and down and break left and right. I really liked him in that role. I'd like to see him utilized somewhat there. But I think, generally when they come out in 3 and 11, you'll see, these monster twin towers, if you will, on either side. And then, Christian Kirk, the slot demon, in the slot. And I know Kirk has had a long, extensive injury history, but he's a good receiver. And that's kind of what they were saying. Hey, this is a veteran, strong hands, great routes, which is good. They get another veteran presence out there. Last year, they kind of loaded up and then they all went down. And so they went right back to the well again this year. And good for them for surrounding CJ Stroud with more capable receivers. And we all like Jalen Noel, but it might be a minute before we see Jalen Noel. Now, again, long injury history with Kirk, so maybe we see him kind of come in that role quickly or more quickly than maybe we're anticipating. Sorry. But yeah, I think Christian Kirk's a really good value right now, and really where Jaden Higgins is going in startup drafts right now is probably a pretty good value.
I think so too. I mean, The last time that we got 17 games from Christian Kirk, he gave us 14 points a game. Yeah, he's wide receiver 18 in points per game. So he's a good player. He just struggles with being healthy.
Yeah.
Like
And,
that's,
he had a collarbone injury, which is, that.
Like you can't. I mean, unless you think he's Mr. Glass,
Yeah.
Like drink some more milk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he broke a collarbone. It's not like he's out here tearing an ACL every time he takes a wrong, a hard cut.
Yeah. In our latest ADP that just came out maybe a week ago, we had Jaden Higgins up 3 spots at 805, super flex tight end premium FFD ADP. And efforting on Kirk's, but it's super late.
Yeah, it's not anything that's going to make you feel anything about selecting him. You're just like, oh, no, you're here.
16th round Kirk feels really good on a team that that's a win now kind of situation where you drafted a really solid team. I've been, for the first half of the season, I was kind of disregarding Kirk in my drafts, and now he's made his way into every one of my queues. Best ball, redraft, maybe. I'm not really sure exactly where that's going to fall just yet, but he, depending on the size of your league, but dynasty for sure. Not yet terribly old, still kind of right in that, designation before he's an old receiver. So yeah, man, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, and Nico. Any concern with how much there is to go around in that offense and the protection?
The protection is the primary concern. I think we've got to get that figured out, because if CJ Stroud is not able to step in his throws, he's not able to deliver, none of this matters. And so we got to get that figured out before we get everything. I mean, I took Ariante Ursary. I liked him. I saw him do some work against Abdul Carter out of Minnesota. So they took one step, but I mean, they had several issues there. So it'll be interesting to see if they can figure that part out, because that was the thing that we didn't really account for, with CJ Stroud taking this massive leap forward and paying off on his best ball ADP last year, which was like QB4, QB5, something crazy like that. So if they figure that out, then we could get what we expected for Diggs, Dell, and Nico Collins to do just a year later. But if they don't figure that out, none of this matters, and only Nico Collins is going to be good.
Right. Any hesitation with Nico and in your rankings, drafting him high, best ball, redraft, any of those things, or you feel really confident with that?
No, I mean, he was on pace for 2,000 yards before he went on IR. Yeah. Like that's how good he is. I thought he could be really good, and he's even better. Did you see what Mike Evans said about him?
Mm-hmm.
You saw that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's the type of good that he is. And so you could fade that if you want to. You can take different shots, but wide receiver 1 could literally be in his range of outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I'm with you. I've kicked that around a good bit. I've certainly I've kicked it around in best ball, and I have definitely skipped over him in the best balls that I've been doing, because right in that range. If you're drafting best balls right now, it's typically St. Brown, Nico, Brian Thomas, Drake London. And some every once in a while, maybe Malik Neighbors slips past the goalie there. So, yeah, I've definitely skipped over him a few times, but I've clicked the button a few times. So I feel very confident in Nico. Nico's the top dog there, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So. Yes.
Yeah.
Like he's so. I mean, the only thing with him is he's going to get nicked up and give you 15 games instead of 17 or 13 games or 14 games. He's not going to give you 17.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope he gives us 17. I hope we get to get.
I would love that. Again, he was on pace for 2,000 yards before he went on IR.
Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. We got a question here coming in. He says, would you trade up from 1-2 to 1-4 if you knew Genty was going to be available? I have 3 firsts, 3 seconds, 3 thirds. I'm a rebuilding-ish team. If you knew Genty was going to be there, I guess so, but once Genty's there, I don't know that you're getting any discount, because it's just the 1-2 at that point and Genty's there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't think you're really getting any sort of discount at that point, right?
No.
Yeah, but I don't mind. Somebody said pick Hampton and or Henderson and give up nothing. I disagree. I would if I can get into the Genty range for a reasonable price tag, I'm in. But I'm not, I'm not going to give up the farm at that point, especially if you're a rebuilder there, which you could get Genty. If I'm in position to draft him, I'm not drafting around him because I'm a rebuilder. I'm fine with that, but I'm not going to sell a bunch of stuff that I've acquired to just buy Genty at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the entry point here is the critical, like the pivot piece. So if it's reasonable and you could say, all right, I can give up, 2 of my seconds or, a second and a third to move up from 102 to 104, then yeah, I think the ceiling on Genty's high enough to where that's fine for me.
Mm-hmm.
But like I wouldn't give up proven asset plus my like 104 plus something else like more valuable to do that, especially if my team sucks. Genty's not going to take my team from being terrible to a contender.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to do that.
Yeah. Somebody said, take a receiver. They last longer. Like if you're rebuilding to a certain extent, yes, like take the receiver, but in that situation, I'm okay. Like Genty's really young. He's the RB3 basically already. Yes. You're okay in that scenario, right? There's lots of things you can do. All right. Jason Hall says Egbuka hype getting out of control yet. That is the next on our news and notes segment here. We got Egbuka, baby. Seems to maybe be the hottest rookie in the streets right now, getting praise from Baker and Mike Evans. Godwin still rehabbing. No one's really given super positive or committing lines here. When exactly will he be back? We hope to see him week 1 essentially. And Godwin's kind of towing the line of, oh yeah, I'm gonna be out there in training camp sweating and doing this and that, but not a real committal anywhere from Godwin. So as we've talked about, and as things have gone on and the sticker shock is worn off from the actual draft happening, where you're going, let's wait. This is weird. Wait a minute. We didn't expect it because nobody had that kind of really necessarily happening. This Egbuka thing has gotten so much more palatable and so much more fun. And at first day, you and I did a show and we mentioned it when we were kind of talking about this show, Golden or Egbuka. Well, for me, it's Egbuka hands down, not even close now at this point. And at that point, I was like, hey, Packers drafted the 1. They don't do that. He's going to get his targets. You might have to wait a little. Listen, there's so many scenarios where Egbuka is just going to be on the field in a starter day 1 that I'm okay. Like I like Egbuka more than I like Golden, and it's camp Egbuka all the way. And my rankings have since reflected that a long ways away. But what you thinking here?
I mean, we had to get back into football stuff and then remember that Emeka Egbuka is really good at football and that there's a reason why they took him. Like, if Chris Godwin's fully healthy, do they make that decision? Probably not. But Chris Godwin also probably makes a lot more money, so he's not there. So maybe he does end up there next to Mike Evans. So he's a really good football player, and he's just being good at football. Like we've talked about this. He felt like the safest wide receiver in the draft, and then he goes to a great environment. And then, on the surface, it seems icky because you're talking about Chris Godwin, who was the wide receiver 5 when he got hurt, and then Mike Evans, who's going to command his targets. He's going to score touchdowns. He's, arguably the first read in the offense. He is the first read in the offense with no Godwin. And so you're like, I don't know about it, but he's really good at football. It's a really good offense. You can't continue to doubt. There's no reason to doubt what's going on here.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and they put a strength on a strength, right? They spent some capital on McMillan last year, and he came in and had a good close of the season. Godwin, this as things go further and further, this was insurance for Chris Godwin to me, like and Mike Evans, whenever he's done with his career or whatever he wants to do, Mike's been awesome, but like they're preparing for the future a little bit. They can walk right into the next generation with Baker for the next, couple of years after these two guys leave, and they have Ibuka and McMillan kind of sitting there waiting. So Ed over here says, I'm throwing out thirds for Jalen McMillan at this point. Ibuka is up, Godwin is down, McMillan's the redheaded stepchild at the moment, and that's how I was going to close this segment out. So that's a good comment there of like, I'm buying as much Jalen McMillan as I can be buying at this point, and he's super cheap. Nobody wants him. He's super, like we've been doing a lot of best balls. He's real cheap in best balls right now. Like you can get him 15th, 16th round. And he's somebody who we just talked about all these scenarios. Godwin doesn't start the season. All of a sudden in 3 wide receiver sets, McMillan's back out there. And God forbid Mike Evans has a hamstring, right? So
I mean, he's given us some issues with soft tissue injuries for the last like 3 or 4 years. So, and he's only getting older. Nobody gets younger. So yeah, it's a very, very friendly situation, and fading it was never a great idea, especially considering how we both expressed that we felt about him as a talent. So
right. So wheels up on buying wide receiver pieces in this offense. I will say I got a pause on Godwin buys really anywhere as far as in drafts right now. I've got a lot of little decent amount of hesitation on pulling that trigger. Could be completely wrong. I think I'd rather let him see him back on the field and pay a little bit more if I'm a contender at this point, rather than take the risk in a startup or depending on where the redraft ADP kind of falls. And I know he is cheap enough at this point for the most part in Dynasty, but like you're still let's check it out here. Let's see where he's at in this updated ADP. 8th round, maybe 9th round.
Let's see.
9-11. So late 9. So that's starting to be late enough to be kind of palatable, but man, there's still, that's close enough to your Jaden Higgins range that we were just talking about a little bit ago. I mean, it's a full round off, but there's Trey Harris at 902. Cortland Sutton. Obviously Cortland Sutton wasn't giving you what WR5 wide receiver 1 numbers all season last year, but if I'm going to take a guy in that range, like I feel a lot safer with taking Cortland Sutton at the moment, right?
Absolutely. Cortland Sutton and Josh Downs kind of stand out to me. Jaden Reed, Alvin Kamara. Yeah, I mean, they're all going in that round before. I would take all those guys over Godwin. My guy Tucker Kraft goes at the 9-12. I would take him. If we had clarity on when he was going to be back on the field and is he going to return to form? If we had those answers, then yeah, he'd be a lot higher, but he's there because he got hurt and it was gruesome and everybody saw it. And now we don't know if he's going to be ready to play football in 30 days because he's still rehabbing. So training camp opens in, basically a little over 30 days. And, is he going to be ready to play football? Is he going to start on a pup? What does that mean? How does he come out of the gates once he's ready? There's too many question marks for guys that are also good at football that don't have those question marks.
Yeah. I'll backtrack a little. 9-11's fairly palatable for me at that point of taking a chance, but he's a 29-year-old receiver coming off a dislocated ankle. It's not my favorite bet in redraft. I'm probably just chilling. The culture watch says as a Jalen McMillan owner, a third isn't going to fly. Evans and Godwin are running on flues. Hey, I agree with you, but that's not the culture that we live in, right? People are like, oh, he's dead, he sucks, get rid of him. So there are probably some people who could get caught up in a rookie draft right now who are like, oh yeah, I'd rather take the current hot thing and swap that out for Jalen McMillan because he's not even going to play this year. So I feel you're not getting him from me either. Culture watch. So all right, let's keep it moving. We got Dalton Kincaid getting a little bit of love through the back end of camp. We had exceptional moments and days in minicamp. Dalton Kincaid struggled with some injuries last year. Didn't really make the second year leap that we were expecting after a strong rookie campaign. seems like a nice potentially post-type sleeper candidate here. 809 ADP currently, and was number 1 on the team in targets per route run last year.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you believe about how they're gonna distribute their targets this year. And that's the biggest issue I have is when he was thriving, it wasn't when Joe Brady took over. Like it just, I mean, he's just like when this year, Joe Brady went completely away from what worked for Dalton Kincaid as a rookie, even though the targets per route run were great. Like they just weren't giving him enough. Like we thought that volume 91 targets his rookie year was going to go to 115, 120 because he was, Keon Coleman wasn't going to take that volume away from him, but they just went so run heavy. They skewed so run heavy that he just didn't matter from a fantasy perspective. So I think he's a great football player. I think he's a good football player. I think that he has a great opportunity. And I think that he's fallen so far. Like in a tight end premium, I double tapped the button with him and Trey McBride in a startup last year. And I could have gotten Brock Bowers instead. And that's the type of hype that he had. And so now where he's going at 809, I'm fine with that. Because if we're not completely out on him as a talent and we didn't believe that, like, oh, this is just, he's not good. He's shown you that he's good. I just don't think he was as good as we pumped him up to be. So this is a perfectly fine entry point for me.
Yeah, I think he's as good as we thought he might be. I think there was some injury throughout that last season. He did miss some games. And you're right. I mean, Joe Brady right now is not doing me any favors in this offense to be super excited about really any part and piece by itself outside of Josh Allen. Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's they didn't really do a whole lot. They've added some Spider-Man meme parts and pieces on the back end of this thing. Which is fine, and they were good with that. But like, I think we can get back to. I like the target per route run. I like that when he's out there, he's getting targets. We just need to see just a little bit more volume go that way and be a little bit more efficient with them, because there were some games with some decent target volume. Just the efficiency wasn't there. Maybe the play calling, the style, all those things that you alluded to. But I don't think anything changed from how good of a player he was. I think there was some injuries mixed in with, hey, I'm not sure what I'm doing with this guy, but I do think he can be a focal point of this offense. And to the point for me, I think the entry point is exactly where I needed to be right now to get in here on some post-hype sleeper Dalton Kincaid.
Can we get some touchdowns, brother?
Yeah.
That's just, can we get some touchdowns?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be a tight end out here just not scoring touchdowns. Oh, I operated between the 20s. What are you, a slot receiver?
Right.
Have some respect for yourself. Score some touchdowns.
Right. No, we need that. And they did the goofy stuff with Dawson Knox, and signing him, which was always odd. So, I think Dalton Kincaid should be on a trajectory of that near triple digit target area. But at this point, where you have to buy him right now, it's okay if he's not this second, right?
Yeah, it's not going to kill you. I mean, in a tight end premium, most likely, unless you chose an interesting strategy, he's not your first tight end.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think that, what he could be, what he showed you, with a little bit of volume his rookie year, it's like, this is a good player. But then last year it just didn't work. But it's not because he sucks, it's because he got hurt and they changed the way they play offense.
What up, Austin? I see you over there. Appreciate you. All right, let's shuffle over to New England, staying in the same division, same area of the country. We got Pop Douglas getting a little closing hype in the little mandatory camp session that we had with McDaniels back in the fold. Long history of great slot production in the past. we've been interested in Pop as a flyer for sure late. And this year, really, I'd be doubling down on that again. Now, we do have quite a crowded room here, and we don't really know how it's going to pan out. There's a lot up in the air. We got Diggs. He seems fine. Not really sure why he wouldn't be starting as the season starts at this point. We got Kyle Williams, who we drafted pretty early that we like. We have Boutte, who had a great close of the year last year. And we have Polk, a second-round draft choice, who struggled, pretty much all last year if it wasn't the preseason. Then we have guys like Ephraim Chisholm III. Got quite an uphill battle, but fun. Maybe he's a practice squad kind of guy. So the big issue here is how does the pecking order kind of slot out? And it seems like Pop has been one of the better receivers for this team when targeted. He's cheap, and everything I've seen from him really resonates with me that he's a solid player, and McDaniels could do some work with him in the slot.
Yeah. I mean, he's, 18th round ADP, wide receiver 77. So he's free. It's like you're taking a swing at a player that we've seen be good at football. We've seen that, and now we're hearing from camp, Mike Vrabel came out and was like, yeah, he does everything right. He gave all the Vrabel. If you follow Vrabel, when he says the things that he said about Pop Douglas, it's usually a good sign that guy is a guy that Vrabel will trust for a role, whether he's the most talented guy or not. He's reliable, he's professional, and he's done everything that they've asked. And the slot role has always had value with Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels, yep.
Yes. Always, it's like McDaniels, man. Anywho. So, yeah, I mean, he's essentially free in an offense that's featured the slot before. So we saw Josh Downs and Drake May have a connection. This could be a rekindling of that sort. Josh Downs primarily playing like in the slot in North Carolina and creating after the catch. Pop Douglas could be similar, an easy button. I like where he's at right now.
Yeah, 1802, I believe, in the FFD ADP right now. So very, very palatable, very cheap. I think he's worth a shot. Best balls right now pretty cheap. May's reasonably priced is a fun little stack that you could put together there. How do we see the rest of that offense kind of panning out around him? Like where does Kyle Williams' role come in? Does Boutte have a role? Obviously Diggs is going to have a role, but that whole system isn't really figured out. Like, that's why I don't mind, popping the success here, getting, a little bit of buzz and some, light shined on it.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, just take a cheap shot and, he's almost certainly going to finish higher than wide receiver 77. And he could be 10 to 12 points a game. If he's the easy button, he's going to get 120 targets. Like he could be a wide receiver 4 or a flex. He's contributing to a contender, and you've got something that he could build on.
Yeah. Yeah. Lewis, there's a few things that happen every year, and it's always cheap Hunter Henry at the end of your draft. If you need any sort of tight end help at all, and go look at the game logs, man. When he plays and he's targeted, like he's rock fucking solid, man. Any sort of premium, he's such a good trash roll at the end to just grab and nobody cares at all until you're like, damn, Hunter Henry, like, and he never gets any respect or really any trade value marked up, but like when you need him, or like if you're in tight end premium and sometimes things aren't going well and you need that extra flex or a 2-point tight end, I mean, man, oh man, he's bailed me out a lot of times down the stretches in those leagues where things just get ugly. So, I mean, he's just a 10, 12, 50, if God forbid that offense gets good,
Exactly.
Right.
Like you can take some swings on Rondé Gadsden. You could take some swings and then know that you have Hunter Henry that's going to give you 8 to 12 points while you see if that's an avenue that you want to go down. The Rondé Gadsden's, Ben Simmons, like those super cheap guys that you think could, grow up into a role, but you've got Hunter Henry as insurance, and you know that that's going to be something that you can rely on. And it gets even better, when you're talking tight end premium, because he gives you those 16-point weeks just randomly.
Still swinging on Butte.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I like the talent. I like how he's responded to being a late round guy, figuring it out and consistently contributing. I like everything that I've seen from him. I don't know. I think week 1, him and Diggs and Pop are the starters.
Mm-hmm. So you think Kyle Williams is rotating?
Yeah, Kyle Williams is going to rotate. I think that it's going to, if what he did well at Washington State translates, which is just create after the catch, he's going to force his way onto the field or be manufactured touches, because you could use him like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a complete receiver, in my opinion, but you could just use him for those gadget plays because he's so explosive and sudden with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he's MV proof, says beat writer, saying Diggs, Pop, Bourne, Kyle are top 4. Bourne coming back from another injury.
No, I'm out on Bourne, and I was I'm
with you. Yeah, I don't.
He's kind of the odd man out here.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I want to see what I could do with Booty, at this point. So
bet you would want to see what you do.
My bad, not Bourne. Mac Hollins. Okay, so he came back with Hollins.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, Mac Hollins might be the sacrificial X. I don't think that he's going to have any sort of impact on the actual offense.
Yeah, if I'm them and where I'm at, I want to see what Booty could do for me.
Yes.
There's no way you could talk about Booty and not.
You can say his first name.
Yeah, Keyshawn. You're right. You're right. Every time it came out, I couldn't stop it.
I couldn't stop the Booty.
But man, I again really like the way Butte ended the season last year.
I mean, he's a solid player, man. And he really put some real good shit on film against real good corners.
Yeah, and he went through being some trials and tribulations and seemed to grow up. He looks like he's 50 already.
Yeah, oh man.
And I feel like he's gonna have a Vrabel essence I feel like he might resonate with Vrabes a bit too.
Oh yeah, man. They're probably like smoking cigs like water breaks. Like, hey man, you got you a cool on you, and they just smoke cigarettes on water breaks.
So where does that leave Jalen Polk, a 2nd round pick from last year?
Oh, he's gonna get cut.
You're cut all the way to cut?
Man, I read something the other day, or heard someone talking about it the other day, where they were saying it like it's not good. Nothing has been positive. I haven't seen any positive propaganda about Jalen Polk at all. We've seen it about Javon Baker. We've seen it about Kyle Williams. We've heard about him making plays down the field.
To be fair, Polk's was shoulder injury, so I don't think he's been. I think he's coming back from something.
He was practicing though.
Yeah, I think he's been limited with what he could do for a minute here. So
okay.
I think maybe he's.
I haven't seen anything. Yeah, I haven't seen anything positive. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and I like Javon Baker too. I mean, they've got some interesting parts and pieces. Let's see if they can make it kind of fit together here. All right, we got some stuff on the back end of this that's a little more fun and light, that may not have huge impacts on anything on the last couple of topics, but let's go CD George Pickens. Before we get to, Bashard Smith and Aronde Gadsden propaganda to have a little fun with. But CD and George Pickens, best 1-2 in the league?
No. They're not better than Chase and T. I would argue
the most potential 1-2 in the league.
Yeah, they'd be 2 or 3.
If Pickens hits it. Like think Pickens can hit it.
Yes, it's possible.
Better than T.
Possible, it's possible that they have 2 14+ 100-yard receivers this year. That is well within the range of outcomes. I've said this time and time again. George Pickens is the best wide receiver in the NFL. If you throw the ball outside the numbers more than 15 yards, he's going to win those balls. And those are low percentage balls that defenses don't really account for in like the way that they build coverages and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's the best at tracking the ball and winning those balls. So it creates a whole different element. He's just had really shitty quarterbacks and they didn't really feature him in those roles. So now you have Dak, who's incredible at throwing like jump balls. He got Michael Gallup to 1,100 yards. And this is the fully polished version with a superpower in catching deep passes. And Dak Prescott's one of the most accurate deep ball passers in the NFL.
Yeah.
Plus the whole red zone thing where he's just in like back shoulders. You're creating stuff like CeeDee Lamb could be nuclear, and it could be Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall. It could be, could be Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson. It could be, Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson. Like it could be that freaking good. Randy Moss and Wes Welker.
Yeah, right.
Like it could be that good.
Can they keep the Pickens boogeyman at bay? Right. Is really, that's
can they save him from himself?
Right. That's
the only thing stopping it from being nuclear.
100%. But I will say the trio as a whole of Burrow, Chase, Higgins, I obviously I feel more confident in that this, moving forward of that 100%. That trio. Then how about Puka and Devontae?
I would real football. I would give them their floor is much safer, obviously. And Puka was, I would take Puka and Devontae.
Puka and Devontae over everybody, or just as
no.
two?
I would put them two. So as Chase, two? Burrow, T1, Devontae, Stafford, Puka 2. Then I would go AJ and Devontae 3, Pickens, CD 4, Addison, Jefferson 5.
Addison, Jefferson behind Pickens and CD.
Yes.
This time next year it'll be BTJ and Hunter, sure.
Oh man.
Oh, here we go. Godwin Evans.
Godwin Evans can go. They'd be after. If Godwin was healthy, this is a totally different conversation. But like they could go 6th or somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of some other, and that's just a good room, and we have obviously, hit that room pretty hard.
That whole room I would take over, like their room I would take over. The whole, like as a whole. Yeah. That 4 is diabolical.
Yeah. Let's see. We start throwing combinations of tight ends in there and whatnot. I don't know if we can get really any great, crazy, better duo than a lot of those guys we just named. I mean, AJ Brown and Devonta, somewhere in the realm there. Probably I would put them at the back half of a lot of that list we just named.
Oh, I had them 3rd.
Oh, you had them 3rd? You got AJ and Devonta 3rd?
Yeah.
Yeah. Over Pickens and CD?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. If you were going to say both of them threw the ball 500 times, even amount of targets, CD and I really like CD and George, but AJ and Devonta would probably smash them from a fantasy perspective if all things were equal. I don't love the Dolphins duo. That's the problem, Ed.
The only thing that I feel like if we could save Pickens from himself, that's just such an animal.
That's the biggest thing. I can no longer account for that.
Right.
Like it's like you've seen that, hey man, if you just, don't self-destruct. You're probably going to get about $30 million a year for a really long time. And he couldn't do it. He was like, oh, I want to be the number one target. Okay, you're the number one target, George. Here you go. And then it's just complete and utter crash out.
Yeah.
To the point where not only did they not give you the contract, but they picked another receiver, brought him in, and traded you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, but again, the talent of George Pickens, like talent-wise, if you talk like, oh, what's the ceiling? They could be number one.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean, I think
it's just a question of like whether or not he keeps his shit together.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs have an up and coming duo trio that could be a problem.
Yeah,
here over the next couple of years. Ooh, Detroit, JMO. Yeah, we're getting some JMO love, but there would be a third with Laporta.
Mm-hmm.
How about the best like kind of non under the radar receiving core?
Carolina
up and comers. They've rapidly become one of my favorite cheap buy offenses for sure.
Yeah, we talked about that offline. Like that, you want like buy into pieces of that offense because it's free. It's like, oh, is this guy good? Chuba's good. Okay, all right. So he's like in the he's RB24 in Dynasty. Like, so he's good. Xavier Legette's pretty much free. Jalen Coker's pretty much free.
Yeah,
and Tet is in the 3rd or 4th round, and he's a lock for 130 targets.
Yeah, I'm mostly with you there. Atlanta needs one other absolute killer to go along with Drake, but I mean Mooney's good for now. If Pitts would come along, you'd be in great shape.
That would be great. If we could just get Kyle Pitts to remember how to football, that would be fantastic.
I mean, we led the show with it. Is it going to be Nico and Jaden Higgins this time next year?
It very well could be. I mean, Jaden Higgins is that good to me. Like he's that good. I thought that he would be kind of a poor man's Drake London. Like better than Michael Pittman, maybe not quite Drake London, but that's still really good from a real football perspective. And a fantasy perspective is just, like it's gonna pay dividends.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to some propaganda as if we were in Russia or North Korea, because I feel like Oronde Gadsden has been he might as well be a Russian spy or whatever, because the propaganda is it just keeps coming, and we're here for it. We're so excited about it. Unfortunately, I think Tyler Conklin is a pro's pro, and I feel like he's going to get plenty of run there.
That's fair.
Doesn't mean that I'm tight end premiums. We got some 2-point tight end leagues where, don't let them get to the waiver wire. Make sure you're drafting Gadsden, converted wide receiver. Me and Chev both really like this guy coming out, goes 5th round. And it just, every time we turn around, it's positive propaganda. Now it's news and notes season where, you haven't done anything. And it's raising your tide a little bit. But Gadsden seems like he could be a really, really good fit in this offense really, really soon. So
you got to follow, man. I think we talked about it on the OG, the very first, the show last week, the news show, where Jim Harbaugh just raves about him and how he's shown up. And it echoed everything that he said about Oronde Gadsden in the draft call, which I thought was important too, because it's like, okay, so they traded up for him, which is an important thing also. It's like, okay, so they have a plan for that guy. They didn't anticipate him probably being available. He's available at that point. Draft him. Then he goes to a guy who uses tight ends incredibly well in Greg Roman. Mark Andrews breakout season, Vernon Davis back in the day. So now he's got the play caller. He's got the system. They have a plan for him. And then he's just exceeding expectations and popping on film. in opportunities with Justin Herbert. So I think that maybe we have a year one problem potentially with Tyler Conklin because he is reliable. He's the better inline blocker, but Mark Andrews, you know, with Greg Roman played in the slot like 56% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Arondé Gadsden can do that. And that's the thing is like he's a converted wide receiver that's a 240-pound wide receiver that plays tight end. So all of the propaganda is pointing to him being so good that they can't deny him some sort of role.
Right.
So might not be all what we want year one, but there's a worse pick to take as your last pick in a best ball draft.
Yeah, and so how I don't know how that affects Ladd. There obviously, I just did a quick Google because I don't know the exact slot percentage, but they had it at 64% from the slot.
Right, and Ladd said he hates being called just a slot receiver. He can do everything.
I don't think that he is. I think that he should be used in that. He should be used all over the place, and get him the ball, get him open. Yeah, it definitely, I think these offenses need to have, different alignments and different sets with these different guys, putting them in different spots, setting up different kind of games there.
Yeah, I mean, that's he's good. Like Ladd's going to get his. This doesn't mean it's gonna. I don't think it means you're gonna pull anything away from Ladd. I just think that it's another weapon for a quarterback who can support multiple weapons because he's got a howitzer. And there's a play caller who's shown you that a tight end can be a featured part of his offense.
Right.
So it's just a little hype. And then you watch, just if you haven't, like YouTube some Arondé Gadsden highlights. If you're watching this in June, you're definitely willing to do that. So don't act all high and mighty.
Yeah. All right, let's go to another one of our faves. Both of us really liked him. Chev really had him high up in those ranks. I couldn't quite get there. But getting some love here in Kansas City. We're talking about Bashard Smith. Getting some love, getting some play. So how's that make you feel? How are you playing the Bashard Smith game at the moment?
Oh man, it's still free everywhere. Startups, rookie drafts, like 16th, 17th round. I'm taking a shot all day long. I thought he would get better draft capital and people would be, because I mean, if you don't know, he's a converted wide receiver in camp, in mandatory mini camp this past week. He lined up at receiver and won a rep versus one of their starting corners in Christian Fulton. So the skill set is there. I said that I would like for him to either be in the Sean Payton Joker role, where he's the pass catching running back for, in an offense that throws the ball to running backs, or I comped him to Jerick McKinnon because that's who he moves a lot like. Jerick McKinnon played quarterback at Georgia Southern, but he's like a jitterbug, explosive, contact balance, stronger than he seems type of player. And this is his first year playing running back. So I think that we've seen that the incumbent doesn't have the job just to have the job in Kansas City. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a first-round draft pick, and then Isaiah Pacheco supplanted him and usurped him, pretty immediately when he popped on the scene. So it's not out of the range of outcomes. That's also a role that they've missed in their offense for the last couple of years since Jerick McKinnon did it. They won a Super Bowl. I just hit but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is man, we've talked about it on the last live show. We just did spend some time talking about Pat and this offense. I think everything just seems in a trajectory of things going in the wrong direction for people who hate the Chiefs and want that dynasty to die.
It's not going anywhere, man.
I mean,
like
Smith is an electric playmaker that, hasn't been at the running back position long. They should be able to do some different things with him. I do think, unfortunately, for this year, I will see where Pacheco's at. I think Elijah Mitchell is a really underrated part to this offense who's had a ton of success in San Francisco when called upon. Now, in San Fran, some people refer to him as Mr. Glass. He hasn't been able to stay super healthy, but when he is healthy, like if Pacheco is not right, Elijah Mitchell can come in and take that job. I think that highly of him, and he's so explosive. So at the very least, we'll see how Kareem Hunt mixes in there, but I think Pacheco and Mitchell should see some reps kind of back and forth a little bit to start the season, and then we'll kind of see where Bashard can kind of work in there. Special teams, probably a good place to start, right?
Yeah, he's a great kick returner. Like that was the thing when I saw he went to the Chiefs. I mean, they had the Remigio guys that returning out last year. That's his thing, though. I mean, even in the Senior Bowl, he had a 40-yard return on kickoff. Like that's where he's going to be able to contribute immediately. And so he had a path to the 53, which was special teams. And then I think that he's so special in space that he's going to carve out gadget touches. And I think they might figure it out sooner than later. But no matter when they figure it out, I think they're going to figure it out and be like, oh, we need to give this guy more touches.
Yeah, I Pacheco going into the last year of his deal, second contract, coming off an injury. Don't know what the details on the Elijah Mitchell deal are. I can't imagine it's anything crazy.
1-year deal.
1-year deal. And then it's Kareem Hunt. So like the landscape isn't huge. So if he could just build on some stuff, we could see him coming in here and having a nice little Jerick McKinnon maybe like role over there. Or I mean, coming out next year and saying, hey, this is our guy. I mean, they're no strangers to putting an undrafted or a 7th round player as their featured guy. They'll mix in some other players, but Bashard is definitely somebody who you should be grabbing and stashing. There might be some options in the beginning of your 3rd rounds and super flex tight end premium that I'd rather go with. But once we start getting to the back end of that 3rd, I got no problem.
You can I know in our ADP, he might be a little steamed up because people have been, listening to us talk about Bashard way more than we probably should. But I just want to make sure that everybody like hears us. We're like, hey, try to tell you this guy might be good. And then, but if I don't think I've taken him personally in the 3rd round of a lot of drafts. I mean, he's in the 4th round.
402 of our ADP.
Yeah, 402.
Super flex.
So, yeah, I'm doing that every single time. I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah, I think that good offense, good player. There's a world where I can envision this working out way better as a just a dart throw.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like it. But this is patience with these kind of players is what you're going to need. You don't come in here and be in mad week 3 like, what's up with Gadsden? What's up with the Bashard Smith? I thought he was like, I mean, they're
Dynasty show, man.
Right, right. You got to have some patience here. Anyway, all right. Saints quarterback room, well up in the air. I don't think a lot of people are super interested in what in the world is going on over there with the quarterback situation. But there's some cheap options with Rattler and Shuck, right? Whether either one of them prove to be anything, you can get both for relatively cheap. And I don't mind grabbing Shuck in a startup or really in Superflex drafts, especially, he usually floats down to the back end of the 2nd. And at that point, like, because of, him being a quarterback and most likely at some point, whether it's the start of the season or not, he's probably going to get a shot. And some smart people really like him. I would say I'm indifferent. But the fact that he is a quarterback on the Saints and Kellen Moore has been a guy who has had some really, really effective stops along the way as far as, coaching up quarterbacks and being around a bunch of good quarterbacks. So it's an interesting battle. It's usually not one that you really want too much to do with, but I'm interested in it. And I'm interested in maybe, I think there's usually at least a little bit of value there somehow, some way.
Man, Ed's killing me with this Jake Hayner shit. So the problem with Spencer Rattler is that I've watched him play football, and I don't think he's very good. And I watched Tyler Shuck play football, and I don't think he's very good either. And so, but somebody's gotta shovel the ball to Chris Olave 140 times and be able to get the ball to Rashid Shaheed. That's the one that I want to buy in Dynasty, because while it could be bad this year, I mean, they get a new quarterback that I think, is good, and Rashid Shaheed's going to be 27 years old and one of the fastest guys in the league, and you may or may not have Chris Olave after this year. Well, no, excuse me. They exercised his 5th-year option also as well too. So yeah, I would take some shots in Dynasty just because I think it could get better. I don't think it's going to be good with either one of these guys though.
Yeah, I think I'm more Rattler's so cheap in a start. You can kind of get both, and then I feel like you can gain some leverage in some trades potentially with people of saying, hey, in season with some quarterback play of some the Bucs fella in the chat said New Orleans Saints hopium, obviously a Bucs fan. But I do think that there's, a little bit of leverage, a little bit of value in that. And God forbid one of them just looks good for a few games. Like, people are so reactive. We talked about being patient, the reactiveness of people. And there were certainly plenty of pundits giving Shuck his flowers. So I do think that if there are some positive blurbs and some okay run there, that there could be a little bit of opportunity to use him. My main point is stepping stones to get to something else, right?
Yeah, they're tools to tear up. I just, it's not bad, but it's just not. It just doesn't at the point where it is, the price point, it's free, so cool, but could return value. I don't think that. I'm just offering my opinion as far as like what they're actually going to contribute themselves from a fantasy perspective, which is, I don't think it's going to be very good.
Yeah. All right. 2 more or 3 more items on here. Be real quick stops, and then we're out of here. Seahawks run game, obviously getting a lot of run and pub of, hey, this is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to be. That's going to be their identity. This defense, look, I think this defense is going to be a nightmare to deal with. The head coach, I got a lot of respect for. I'm a Niners guy, but I think he's really good. Back half of the season, they were a top 5 unit, kind of top to bottom, really, really tough to deal with. And this offense comes back. They get this line healthy. They've dealt with a lot of offensive line injuries. And they come in here and they're going to run, a Kubiak style system and a run game. And I think Kenny and Sharbs really have a good opportunity here in this offense to really shine, and they're going to lean on those guys a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen the Kubiak run game just be dominant for generations now, and Alvin Kamara was having a resurgence with Clint Kubiak last year, and I think if we're already dealing with an ankle injury for Kenny 3-6, which is way less than ideal considering the history. So, but for either one of the guys, if Zach Charbonnet is going to function as a primary running back, he's got top 16 upside, in my opinion. So that run game is going to be the bread and butter of the offense, unfortunately. And they're going to be in a lot of 12 personnel, which it's like, okay, well, are we going to be Cooper Kupp, JSN? Cooper Kupp was basically non-existent from a yards per route run perspective from the outside. So what does that really look like? So, but the run game is going to be the bread and butter of this offense. Nobody's counting on Sam Darnold to really execute at an extremely high level. I know I'm not. He had 27 turnover-worthy plays last year. So, yeah, the Seahawks run game is going to have to be their bread and butter, and I think it's going to function that way with the way that they drafted, with who they selected as their offensive coordinator and that track record. Yeah, I'm I like the run game. I just want Kenny Three Sticks to be healthy. Please be healthy.
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. If he stays healthy, I think unlimited upside there inside the top, 10 to 5 running backs in the league from a pure running standpoint. Just needs to be healthy. And I think he could be really, really thrive in that situation. And we've put to bed the pass catching nonsense, which, don't get caught up in dumb shit like that.
Don't get caught up in dumb shit like that.
So stupid. You know how many battles I fought that year Kenny Walker came out about how we can't catch, so you got to knock him down. I'm like, it's not that he can't catch, they just didn't throw it to him. They didn't throw it to any running backs.
Right.
So all right, let's end this with 2 running backs who I've really been liking through this offseason. And one of them has gotten more and more of my favorite as they've gone on. Travis Etienne with the Jacksonville Jaguars gets a veteran rest day. Were you reading any tea leaves there? I mean, we both really like Etienne. I think the value on Etienne is outstanding right now. I think he's going to be the number 1 back that you have to go through in this offense. And maybe it even leads to another contract with Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, and Liam Cohen.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. This is great. So we've seen Travis Etienne be really good. You've seen Liam Cohen be scheme flexible. He was designing runs differently for Bucky Irving on what he was successful at, and Rachaad White, what he did well. So I think Travis Etienne can function as both of those guys in one. I don't think that Basil Tootin is good enough. Like, I don't look at his tape and then look at what I've seen Travis Etienne do and evaluate them and be like, oh yeah, well, that guy's clearly more talented, and he fumbles a lot. So he had 9 fumbles on 406 touches the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that this is an extreme value for a guy who has RB3 overall in his range of outcomes. And we've seen Liam Cohen's running back usage be very fruitful for fantasy. And I think you're getting all that baked into a guy who we're not taking that range of outcomes, or just we're hurt because of last year.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Who battled through some injuries. And I these are this kind of times that, and sometimes it does happen that I think we get overexcited about things. And I feel like the Tootin love has subsided a little bit from how hypey it got there. Like, as far as, there's not quite as many. I think some reality has set into some people, and those people will come charging back if Tootin has a good preseason or whatever. And sure. Maybe it should. And what he does have is speed, right? That's what Basil Tootin has, right? A lot of speed.
4.32.
To me, it's like you got 2 RBs you got to get through before Tootin can see a ton of the field, right? And now if he gets on the field and he becomes electric and undeniable, and we've seen him do it with Bucky Irving, and I don't know how much Cohen had to do with that or not, but they basically said he was undeniable, so they got him on the field. So you would assume that if Tootin's that good, they'll work him in there, and they probably want to see a little bit of what he has. They worked Sean Tucker into that rotation at times last year, in Tampa, so you could see some of that. But
I mean, it's possible.
And then, kind of the last guy on this list is Tyrone Tracy. And I just feel like it's the same kind of situation. Obviously they've, they got a 4th round running back in Scatabo. Is that what it was? 4th round?
Yep. 4th round.
So same kind of deal as Tootin. And all of a sudden he just came in and obviously not on Travis Etienne's level of capital and who he is and what he's done in his career. But like, I just don't know, why we've just come in here and assumed that Scatabo is coming and taking everything from Tyrone Tracy and leaving him for dead in some people's opinions, which is just crazy to me. Because, and we've talked about this before, just their skill sets and what they do and what could set Scatabo apart in other places is a bit redundant in what Tracy does, right? And then you have a professional in Singletary, who was kind of sort of holding Tracy off until he got hurt. And there's just, like, I thought Tracy put a lot of good things down last year. You got Fred Warner saying he's top 5 hardest running backs to tackle. He's just a big fella who's a good pass catcher. And it's no disrespect to the Anglo Assassin. I love him. I think it's great. Like, we had him pretty highly ranked and we represented pretty hard on him. I just don't know why all of a sudden we're like Cam Scatterbo in the first round. And I'm just like, yeah, let's put it this way. For what Cam Scatterbo is and his production and his speed scores and all those kind of things, for him to pay back that first round draft capital that some people have spent on him would be a really, really big outlier, which, listen, I'm not somebody to tell anybody to go against the grain on outliers. I'm fine with it, but it just seems to me like it's a bit of a wild conclusion to draw so quickly.
Yeah, that's not a bet that I want to make. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense from what's been a proven formula. Like why are you taking a day, like, if you're going to talk about what the offense is, like, that's a bottom 10 offense, most likely, even with Malik Neighbors. I mean, even with Russell Wilson, even with Theo Johnson, it's a bottom 10 projected scoring offense that isn't going that's not going to have the positive game scripts to be able to use two running backs unless you're going to line Tyrone Tracy up at receiver and then be scheming and scamming touches. So I just don't understand how you think that this pays off if you're going to take Cam Scatterbo at the 109. I think Henry, who was in here, left me a comment and said that in an FFPC draft, Cam Scatterbo went 109.
Yeah,
so
and that could be one quarterback. And that makes at least a little bit more sense, bumps him up around. But it's like I see him 2-1 to 2-4 a lot, and there's just a handful of guys that I'd rather have if we're talking super flex tight end premium at that point. But and it's no disrespect to Scatterbo. I think he's good. Like, I think Scatterbo should kind of come in and give you a juiced up use check role year one. Like,
right.
Get him in the backfield, do some different things with him, throw it to him, line him up all over the place, do different things, use him as a fullback here and there. And then, if something does happen to Tracy, you got a guy right here who can come in and fill in and play your more traditional running back. But like, I kind of see him like something like that year one and working into, unless he's just so damn good, and like could be completely wrong. And I'm not even trying to hate on Scatterbo. It's more of a Tracy thing.
Yeah. It's just that we've seen Tyrone Tracy produce in a less than ideal environment, and that alludes to him being a talented running back. Mm-hmm. Cam Scatterbo is a talented running back, but this isn't a high yield offense. This isn't Detroit. Like, we're not talking about a team that's probably going to be top 5 or top 10 in point. We're talking about a bottom 10 offense.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it really difficult for me to click the button on Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Let's wrap this one up. We're looking forward to hammering you with these all off season long. I think, unfortunately, I don't know what the news and notes will be over the next week or two, so you might not quite see us. But as soon as we're back and it's rolling hot and heavy, we'll see this. You'll see this all year or all off season long, at least for Chev and I to be bringing you live kind of news and notes and breaking down OTAs and all that kind of stuff. So if you want more action, we got more stuff on the Patreon side of things. We're doing at least one episode every week. There's more stuff over there. We're doing a lot of best ball drafts, and that'll be live. Redraft channel will be ramping up on the Dynasty channel, and then it'll spread into its own channel. So lots of good stuff going on with the FFD. So make sure you're following along on YouTube's, and so that you can see that redraft channel take off. We'll have all sorts of good stuff going on over there. Mocks will be taking place shortly on the Dynasty channel here as we move forward. Chev, what do you got for him?
Man, you know where to find me. I'm on the Twitter Xverse at Chev90. The link tree's there. All the stuff's there. Download the app in the Google Play Store, League Champ app and Google Play, or whatever the app store's called for Apple people. Yeah.
All right. Until next time, I'm Casey. That's Chev. We're the FFD. Peace.